Good evening, everyone. I am Chris, and Cobra Kai is back. Season 6, the final season of probably one of my favorite TV shows in the last few years. It's finally coming to a head. Season 6, consisting of 15 episodes, and in typical Netflix fashion, whenever a show is incredibly popular, they're splitting it into 3 parts. So this is a review of part 1. I actually completely forgot when this was meant to be released. I think I did mention a number of weeks ago, like somewhere in the back of my mind, I noted July the 18th was when it was going to be released, the first 5 episodes at least. And then, work and other stuff and other reviews and the Acolyte and the Disney reviews, I just completely forgot about it. I forgot what month we were in, what date of the month we were in. And then I was just like, so I think actually last night I was gearing up to watch Mulan for the review on Monday for the Disney review. And then I was like, oh shit, it's July the 18th today. And then I checked on my Facebook and people were watching Cobra Kai, and I thought, oh shit, I need to jump on this. Before we get into the review as well, if anyone tunes in, I'll mention this if someone jumps in again in a second. If my microphone level is particularly low, just let me know because I can adjust the volume. It seems a little bit quiet on my end, but I mean, I don't want to mess with volume if it's going to like screw something up from what it normally is. So this is going to be, we probably will get into spoilers later on, but I'm going to try and keep it as spoiler free as possible, which is probably going to be a very short review at the beginning. And then I will let you guys know when I'm going to get into spoilers for the remainder of it. So yeah, as I said, 3 parts. This is part 1. The next bunch of episodes are scheduled to release in November. And then I don't think they've actually given a release date for the final bunch of episodes. We just know that it's sometime in 2025. My guess would probably be January or March kind of time, I would expect, before this is all said and done. Before I get into the episodes, though, I do actually just want to mention this structure of splitting the season. I really dislike it. I really dislike how they're splitting this final season into 3 parts. We know that Netflix have done this before with the likes of Stranger Things Season 4. Immensely popular show. And normally, they just dump all the episodes out there and then for a season, and that'd be it. But they want to, why dump the whole season out when you can drag it out, have like a part 1 or part 2, or in the case of Cobra Kai, have 3 parts and drag it out over the course of a year to get more subscribers, to get more people intrigued and interested and hanging on for those very exciting new few episodes. So I'm not keen on how they're splitting this because, season 6 coming back, it's a big deal. It's like, oh shit, it's back. And then you watch them and you're like, oh, well now, like, the drag shoot has been released and now the hype's going to die down. And we've got August, September, October, and like midway through. So we've got like 3.5-4 months to wait until the next part, and I think that it kills any sense of drive or enthusiasm for it. It's almost like they're trying to capture the magic of 3 season premieres in a row, and I just don't feel like that's the best way to go about it. I'd rather them just release the season, to be honest. I think for this form of storytelling as well, I don't think it's really designed to have these artificial cliffhangers, like these artificial season finales to split it up across 3 parts, but that's just me. So if my microphone sounds fine, please do let me know. If the audio level sounds lower than normal, then I can adjust the volume. I don't want to mess with anything until I get some feedback from what people are hearing, on your end. So if the microphone sounds fine and the audio levels a-okay, that's totally fine. If it needs adjusting, please do let me know as we get into this review. So I guess sort of my thoughts going into this final season, and maybe just my thoughts on Cobra Kai or Karate Kid, if you're pretty new to this, if you just clicked on. The Karate Kid trilogy, but especially that original movie, is one of my favorite films of all time. It means so much to me, the impact, the inspiration of characters, and that's going to be a big point in this review of season 6, the inspiration of certain characters. Mr. Miyagi is one of my favorite characters of all time. I find that first film, that coming of age film, a lot of people say it's Rocky, but with karate. I'm inclined to agree with some aspects of it, not to mention the director, of course, was the same between the initial early Rocky films and the Karate Kid trilogy. But it's just such a heartwarming tale, great coming of age film, good sports movie, and just filled with wonderful characters. The sequels, whilst not as good as that original, have still hold a big place in my heart. I love them. The soundtracks, especially to them, are great, and the characters. You have Chosen in the second one, and then you have Terry Silver, who's one of my all-time favorite villains of anything. Like, he's just insane, high on cocaine, ridiculous, but that's why we love him. And initially, when Cobra Kai was announced, I was very skeptical, as I always am whenever a sequel or some kind of continuation is announced or created from something that's, 20, 30, 40 plus years old, whatever it happens to be. It never seems to capture that same magic. And originally it was on YouTube Red, wasn't it? Is that what it was called? Like YouTube streaming thing. And it was like, oh, they've done like a Karate Kid series, whatever. And I was really late to the party with it, but one of my best friends, who was a big Karate Kid fan as well, he watched it and was like, Chris, you need to watch this show. You will love it. Trust me. And after episode 1 of season 1, I was hooked. And as the series have progressed, Cobra Kai has fast become one of my favorite TV shows of recent years. Now, it ain't going to win any awards in terms of high art or writing or anything like that, but in terms of respecting its legacy characters and giving the original characters so much drama and great continuations and a wonderful advancing of the story and their lives, post the original trilogy, it's brilliant. And you kind of compare that to what Disney have done with the Star Wars, well, just the sequel trilogy, but Star Wars in general, and how they've maligned that legacy, and they have no respect for the legacy characters, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, or any of those characters. They just don't give a shit, or they vilify them, or they're shells of their former selves. Dario says, how did Hawk lose to Dimitri? This part 1 was good, but it was random for me. I'm going to keep it as spoiler free as I can at the beginning, just in case anyone hasn't watched it. But then again, why are you clicking on a Cobra Kai review if you haven't watched it? It's 5 episodes. It's not a whole bunch of episodes. But that's interesting, because I'm going to get onto that, because I might feel the same way that you do, Dario. But yeah, suffice it to say, I think on the whole, over the course of 5 seasons, Cobra Kai has gone from strength to strength in terms of how it's dealt with its characters, and bringing pretty much every single character from the original trilogy back almost. Fingers crossed, I'm still hoping for a Hilary Swank cameo from the next Karate Kid. We will see what happens. I feel she's like the smoking gun. She's the one you need to bring out at the very end. I'd absolutely love it if Hilary Swank made a comeback and just like featured in like the last couple of episodes or something. Dario says, I watched all in one day. Literally, it felt like 5 minutes all episodes. Cobra Kai has always felt like that to me. It's such a bingeable show. It really is. And yeah, so I marathoned all 5 episodes last night as well. I actually didn't check how many episodes had been released. Well, number one, I forgot how many episodes were in this season, because usually it's 10, isn't it? I think 10's usually like the nice round number. I didn't realize this was 15. And I was thinking, right, well, how are they going to split the release schedule across 10 episodes? And I was thinking, if they released 3 now, 3 again in in November, and then 4 again next year or something. I was like, holy shit, next episode. Holy shit, next episode. I was like, oh my God, there's 5. So by the time I finished this after work last night, it was gone midnight for me in the UK. So I was going to intend to do the review immediately after last night, but I thought, ain't no one going to be up gone midnight. No one's going to be tuning in for a Cobra Kai season 6 review on this channel at that kind of time. So I thought, save it for today. I'll let my thoughts kind of sink in and mull over it for a little bit before giving my opinions on it. Dario says, it would be just better if they released all at once. I hate cliffhangers. Yeah, that's exactly what I mentioned as well. And, the only reason they've done it, as I mentioned, Stranger Things did this as well with season 4. They split it across 2 halves. It's to get that subscription money, isn't it? It's to keep us all hanging on. Well, don't binge all 15 episodes or 10 episodes, whatever it is, in one day and then cancel your subscription. No, we want to keep you hanging on. So you're paying for August, September, October, all ready for those next 5 episodes in November. But I do think it does kill the enthusiasm. We've waited a year and a half for Cobra Kai to come back. And here it finally is. And with 5 episodes in, we haven't got a complete story. We've kind of got like an artificial cliffhanger. That kind of leads me into my review now properly of this. So as I say, I'm still going to keep this spoiler free as much as possible. And then I'll let you guys know when I get into the sort of specifics of the episode. You mentioned that it felt like 5 minutes, and they're not relatively long episodes. They're like 35 minutes, 36 minutes, something like that. Tay says season 6 was rushed. I actually think the complete opposite. I think that if we're looking at this purely from a story perspective, there's a lot of shit in these 5 episodes to me that feels completely pointless and arbitrary, and it feels like it's treading water quite a lot. And 5 episodes is a lot of screen time for a TV show normally. Let's say that this is normally 10 episodes, right? To me, to get to where we are from episode 1 to episode 5 feels like in any previous season, we could have achieved that in like 2 to 3 episodes max. Really, all it is just finalizing the decision of which students are going to be fighting in the Sekai Taikai tournament, which is going to be held in Barcelona. That's pretty much it. That honestly feels like all we're doing this season so far. With Kreese and everything, we're kind of building up this this villain team, sort of like the new Cobra Kai, quote unquote. They're going to be the villains that are all dressed in black and are all aggressive and angry and strike first, strike hard, no mercy, sir, kind of thing. We're building that villain faction up. And then really it's just kind of tryouts to whittle whoever's going to fight in the Sekai Taikai. And ultimately what it boils down to, again, I'm keeping this as spoiler-free as possible, is that 6 students will be fighting in the Sekai Taikai. Out of everyone in Miyagi-Do, you've got all your main characters, and then you've got the people in the background that kind of fill the numbers, the extras and stuff. Who do you think is going to be fighting in the Sekai Taikai? So we're dragging this out over episodes and episodes, and it's like, who's going to be fighting? Who's going to be fighting? And it's going to be... Is it going to be the 6 random extras at the back of the screen that we can barely see, or is it going to be the 6 main characters that we've been following for 6 seasons now? I wonder. So there's not really any suspense, for me at least, or intrigue as to who's going to get picked, because it all feels very predictable. And the villain team as well. So the villains in this, again, this isn't really much of a spoiler because this kind of comes into episode 2. You have Master Kim, who is the grandfather of oh god, what's her name? What is her name? The Korean, I think she's Korean, isn't she? The Korean chick from the previous season who was working with Silver. It's her grandfather, and I don't know if he's like the original sort of inception of the idea for Cobra Kai as a brand, but he's kind of like Pai Mei from Kill Bill 2. If anyone's seen him, like the wise martial arts master who lives on top of a mountain, and he has like the long flowing white beard. He's like an evil version of Yoda. That's basically what he is. Yeah. So Tay says not having Terry Silver in part 1 was pointless. By the way, keep your comments coming in, guys. I will get to everyone's comments. I'm just kind of spitballing right now. So I'll say my bit and then I'll go over to comments and I'll read everyone's comments as they come in. Thank you for everyone who's tuning in so far, by the way, and keeping the conversation going. Terry Silver is such a force to be reckoned with. And when Kreese made the call many, many seasons ago, and we knew it was building to Terry Silver, and they released that trailer. It was the season 5 teaser trailer, wasn't it? And it was Silver delivering his monologue, I think, from Karate Kid Part 3. And we saw the ponytail and the poster. I was losing my mind. And it felt like that was where the show was getting towards its finale, was the return of Silver. He's back for one more, one final time, and we've got to take him out. And I think, we dispatched with Silver at the end of season 5, and he got arrested, and we've had no mention of him, really. We haven't seen him or anything in part 1 so far. We've got 10 episodes, so I do expect that he will be back at some point. But the villains in this feel so lackluster, because it feels at the last moment, we've got to throw we need a villain for the finale. We've kind of got Kreese, but we've got to get some new blood in there. So we've got Master Kim now and some new sort of Cobra Kai-ish students. And it just doesn't have the same impact. It doesn't feel as grandiose as that partnership between Kreese and Silver was in Karate Kid Part 3 as it was in season 5. Now, as I said, there's still a chance that Silver could return and we could get that, really good antagonist back again for the finale of this show. There's still a lot to happen. There's 10 episodes. That's basically an extra full season's worth of shit. A lot of stuff could happen. But so far, every time it cuts to Kreese, I'm just kind of bored because I don't really care about this new character who you've concocted of Master Kim. Actually, if anyone's seen the original films, is Master Kim one of the original characters? Like, do you see a picture of him or something in the old Cobra Kai gym? I think I did read that somewhere, that Master Kim is actually a carryover from the older films, but maybe I've just forgotten because it's been a while since I've seen them. But yeah, I don't know. Not really feeling the villain so far. I'm just going to go over to you guys' comments real quick. Dario says, for me, Hawk is better and better every season, but he's always so soft and shows mercy. That's why he always loses. Well, I can tell which dojo you'd go for. You definitely go for Eagle Fang, right? Or maybe you'd go for Cobra Kai. That'd be cool. Dario says, also, we're going to talk about Quan. Let's be real. Nobody can beat him. The only way Miguel, Robbie, or Hawk can beat him is with plot armor. But that's kind of the way it goes with Karate Kid. So here's the thing. Like, I don't want to come down like thunder on this series so far and be like a real negative Nancy about it, because, if I say that, people have got plot armor, or people... They even mention it in this series. What was it, like Daniel LaRusso managed to beat Johnny Lawrence back in the 80s after 6 days of training, when Johnny Lawrence was like a seasoned professional and was already winning tournaments because he had heart. And, when they spell it out like that, yeah, it is ridiculous, but it's the underdog story, isn't it? And that's what makes that original Karate Kid film so great, and the original trilogy so great, is because of that. It's the spirit of it. So, plot armor, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And you see that all the time, in that character skill sets will kind of adjust based on who they're fighting. 1 minute you'll have, I don't know, Miguel being like the best champion, the very best, like no one ever was. And then in another fight, he'll get his ass kicked by someone who's significantly less of a fighter than who he's fought before. So that's just kind of what you get with Cobra Kai, I think. Tay says, why have all the episodes 30 minutes? That's not enough to wrap the story. That's just rushing the story. See, I don't know. I feel like they've really dragged this opening act. It's going to be a 3-act story, right? It's split into 3 parts, 5 episodes a piece. But this opening act to me feels like we could have got this shit done in 2 episodes. And I feel like in previous series, they would have blitzed through this real quick. And it feels like it's just needlessly being padded out because it's the final season. We can't have it be 10 episodes. Let's have it be 15 episodes. But it doesn't feel like it's being very economic with that time. Another thing that I'm just kind of over at this point, and I love this show. I really do. But it feels like this is the right time to end it. Like, I'm watching it, and it feels like it's going through the motions a lot of the time, especially regarding the whole like Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence stuff. To me, it just feels like treading water. Every single season has the same kind of pattern. You have the rivalry, and then by the end of the season, it's like, oh, now we're BFFs, and we're going to unite for the next season. And then, like, episode 1 of the following season, they'll have some kind of bullshit, ridiculous disagreement, and then they'll be back to being enemies again. And then by the end of it, it's just like, Cobra Kai's back. We need to unite together. And, Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang, or whatever it is, or Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai, let's join together to take out the big villain. And then they'll fall out again in the next one. And it's exactly the same in this one. And I thought, can we please be done with that? Can we please stop wasting time with that pointless shit? Especially for the final season. I want to see these characters advance. And we saw all these characters. We saw Daniel LaRusso, Johnny Lawrence, and we saw Mike Barnes, and Chosen all team up to take out Silver in the last one. I thought, can that be reason enough to unite all together for the final season. And then no, like episode 1 of this, it's the same shit again. Johnny Lawrence is angry at Daniel LaRusso because he doesn't agree with Miyagi-Do, and it's like it feels like we've done this for like 3 seasons straight now. Like the same argument, the same antagonism between the two. And I'm not saying you can't have conflict between the two. Like you can have disagreements and things like that, but over the petty stuff, I'm just kind of over it now. And especially, Johnny Lawrence believes that the kid should be tougher, bringing in probably some of his original training from Cobra Kai, sort of like the no nonsense strike first kind of stuff. And then Miyagi-Do, which is all kumbaya and zen and oneness and peace and balance and mercy. And Johnny doesn't agree with that. But for like the last 3 seasons, it feels like they come to a compromise and then it just backpedals. And there's some really corny shit in this season so far. And I'm not going to say that the Karate Kid films don't have that as well, because they absolutely do. And some previous series of Cobra Kai have had that. And there might be some like mild spoilers here, but here you have so Sam and Tori are kind of enemies, right? And over the course of a couple of episodes, they become friends. They sort of work through their shit together. And then Johnny Lawrence is angry that they've become friends, and he feels like they've lost their fighting, killer instinct edge. So he creates a slumber party for all of them, for Sam, Tori, and what's the name of the other chick in it? Oh god, what's the name? Someone help me. Someone in the comments tell me a name. I've forgotten. Devon, that's it, isn't it? The other girl. He creates like a girls' night in sleepover, and he gets them pillow fighting, and it feels very awkward and kind of uncomfortable. He even attempts to call it, what was it, like Cobra Kai After Dark or Cobra Kai After Hours or something, or Miyagi-Do After Hours, and they're like, don't call it that. And you've got these actresses, and I'm guessing they're probably in their like mid to probably like mid-20s at this point, mid to late 20s, playing high school kids still, and it's really weird and uncomfortable. And he formulates this sleepover, and he's like trying to get them to bitch about each other and to become enemies. And I'm like, do we need this? Do we need all of this? You have Chosen, who's kind of become the comic relief, bombing off with Johnny Lawrence to try and find an apartment. And there's some kind of like awkward, dorky comedy and conversation between the two. So there's just a lot of these scenarios where I'm like, do we need all of this for the final season, for the final part of the story? Another one which felt completely shoehorned in just to get some more fighting in there. It's like we've got to fight every 5 minutes in this series now. Is where you have them going off to colleges. And I mean, I don't know much about American colleges or universities, like campuses and fraternities and everything like that. I don't understand all of that stuff because I'm British. So in episode 2 or episode 3, you have like this long part of the story where they're having, going to like frat parties and fighting. And it's like, I don't give a shit about any of this. Like, can we devote this time to actually advancing the story? It felt like it was treading water. It felt like we could just remove all of that and you wouldn't really miss a beat from the story, really. And it's just, it felt like a lot of that. So overall, I think at the moment, I'm not really feeling season 6. And I'm kind of feeling the fatigue of it a little bit. I'm glad it's the final season. And I will say, to the writer's credit and the showrunner's credit, they did mention ages back that they have a plan for this. They have an ending. They didn't want to drag this on needlessly. They know where they want it to end and how they want to tie this whole thing up. And I believe they made that statement not long after the Game of Thrones season 8 debacle at the end. Game of Thrones season 8, Jesus Christ. But how that just ended abruptly, and it was terrible, and it was rushed, and they were like, we're not going to rush it. We know exactly what we're doing. And they have announced, I think it was like last year or maybe the year before last, that there is a new Karate Kid film being released. Now, I don't know if it's going to tie in with Cobra Kai or if it's going to be kind of in its own separate universe, but it's going to be starring Ralph Macchio as Daniel LaRusso, and it's going to have Jackie Chan as like the Mr. Miyagi from the remake. So I don't know whether this is kind of going to like lead into that movie that's going to be released. I'm not sure, or if the movie is going to be a completely separate thing, but it is worth noting that definitely. So I have faith in the writers, because for 5 seasons they haven't let me down so far, not really. But this season so far, I don't know, something feels off, something feels missing. And I'm hoping it's going to be one of those cases, once you have all 15 episodes together and you can review it as a big part of the whole, as a first act, it's all going to make sense. It's all going to come together. But as of right now, 5 episodes in, a third of a TV show, I'm not feeling this season. I think this is easily the weakest season so far. And I know I can't comment on all that because we haven't had all of the episodes, but just I'm speaking as I find what's been released so far. Something's not right. There's large parts of the writing that I'm not okay with, and decisions that they do with characters, which I'm about to get into. So I'll probably go into the spoiler section now. I'll just read some of you guys' comments first. Dario says, here's my theory. I think that Kwon will win Sekai Taikai, but it will be found out Kreese killed Tori's mom, and then they will take Sekai Taikai from him and give it to Miguel because he was the one. Yeah, maybe. I do think definitely, I guess, going into spoilers now, Tori's mom dying definitely feels like suspicious circumstances, doesn't it? But then again, they do say it was a blood clot. So, and then they do that like close up of the fist when she's lying, when she's dead on the floor and Tori finds her. And I thought initially, is that because someone broke in and she was trying to put up a fight? She was trying to like physically fight someone, whoever broke in. The whole thing felt very suspicious. But then they say, oh no, it was a blood clot that we didn't detect. So because they've explained that away, I mean, that's the medical team. Like, they wouldn't fuck up like that. I mean, they did fuck up not identifying the blood clot, but it sounds like they do have a definitive cause of death that, there's no foul play from anyone else. So could be. Absolutely could be. We'll see. Do you remember the theories that came out after season 5 that Silver kept hanging around the hospital and he had like a lot of cryptic things he was saying, like, I want to leave a legacy. I want this to be the thing that I'm remembered for. And I remember reading a lot of people's theories thinking that Terry Silver had like cancer or something, or that he had some kind of terminal illness, and he knew that, and he wasn't going to be around for, he knew he wasn't going to be around forever. It doesn't seem like they're going to do anything with that, because we've only got 10 episodes left, and I feel like it's just going to be fight for like the rest of the series now. Tay says Miyagi-Do, is not winning the tournament. Kwon is more skilled. Yeah, but you could say this in the original Karate Kid film. Johnny Lawrence is way, way more proficient when it comes to fighting and tournament knowledge, and yet Daniel LaRusso, who has 6 days worth of training, beats him at the end. So the good guys are going to win. It ain't going to be... I don't think it's going to be some subversive shit where the bad guys win, Tay says, what if Terry Silver is in part 2 and he shows up with new students and he could rule the tournament? The thing is, though, he's been disgraced, hasn't he? Quite publicly. So I don't feel like Terry Silver is going to have a part to play in the actual Sekai Taikai, but I do think he is either going to get back at Silver, he is going to get back at Kreese, or he's going to have a plan. He will be back. We've got 10 episodes. I'm holding out hope he'll come back, definitely. But yeah, it felt very final. That's what I mean. Season 5 felt very final. You've brought Terry Silver back. You have like a big violent showdown with him at the end, and you take him out and he's publicly disgraced. That felt kind of like the natural ending point for me. And now we've got like season 6 and we got Kreese back, and it's like Kreese is fine, but Terry Silver is like next level. Don't get me wrong, I love both. I love me some Kreese. He's the bad guy that we all hate to love, but to me, Terry Silver is like the end boss. And it feels like we took out the end boss. But here we are with new villains, so yeah. Dario says, still can't believe the show is ending, but it's kind of better because they will lose story and it's going to be trash. Yeah, and I feel like there's only so long that we can assume that all of these actors are high school students, because already I'm looking at all of these kid actors and I'm like, yeah, you're not high school students anymore. And I say you have like Sam and Tori pillow fighting. I'm like, come on. You have Kenny as well and Kenny's brother. So this was a thing. This is like the writing for me. It like flip flops constantly, and it just, yeah, it really bothered me. So Kenny was actually one of my favorite characters that was introduced into this whole series. I love the journey that the character's gone on, and I think he's acted very well. So he's with his brother, and his brother was in juvie with Robbie, and he's very, you know, hard, and you know, he's had a history of violence, let's say. And Kenny's kind of going down that same path from the teachings of Silver and from Cobra Kai in previous seasons. And Robbie, having gone through that, is trying to bring him back from the dark side, basically. You know, he's trying to bring him back to the ways of Miyagi-Do and take him under his wing, because he went down that similar violent path and he doesn't want to see Kenny, who's kind of, you know, he's taken him under his wing. And his brother's like, back the fuck away. Like, you abandoned him. You left him alone at Cobra Kai. I'm back now, and I'm going to watch over him. And you're like, oh shit, like he's going to go down the same route as his brother. And he maintains that for like a couple of episodes, or like 1 or 2 episodes, whatever it is. And he's like, look, stop hassling us, Robbie. Like, back the fuck away. Otherwise, we're going to have problems. And it turns into a fight in the batting cage. And Kenny gets his ass kicked by 2 girls. Like, Tori and Sam fight him, and Kenny gets his ass kicked. And he's got like a good like 1.5 foot on them, probably. And everyone's watching, and I'm like, I'm sorry. He would be publicly disgraced getting his ass kicked by Sam LaRusso and Tori Nichols. Like, he is going to be a laughingstock. And his brother, again, is like very violent in that scene. And then immediately after, his brother does like a complete 180 and is like a totally different character. And he's like, hey, you don't want this life of violence. Like, why are you acting like this? Like, I saw you at the batting cage. You want to grow up to be that? You want to grow up to be how I did? Don't make my mistakes. I'm like, you were the one who was fighting Robbie. You were the one who was telling Robbie to back the fuck away and stop trying to intervene and stop trying to turn him to the good side. You wanted him to be angry and angsty and fucking vicious and violent. And then all of a sudden in the next scene towards the end of the episode, he's like, yeah, no, like, don't be angry. Like, don't fight. You know, that's pointless. Be what I couldn't be. I'm like, whoa, where did this change come from? It's like the writers wanted to take it in a different direction and then just stop dead in their track. Did anyone else have that? That just felt really random to me, like a random turnaround. Let's see. Dario says, I got part 2 leaks of Sekai Taikai. Oh, nice. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, is that video? Is that just, you know, what might happen? I mean, part of me doesn't want any spoilers, but I'd be interested in hearing what the leaks are saying. Tay says, if Daniel didn't tell Johnny to stop Tori and Sam from fighting in episode 5, Tori wouldn't have left. Yeah, oh, God, yeah. Tori would have wiped the floor with Sam. I am not a fan. I think a lot of people are like this too. I am not a fan of Sam's character at all. I never have. And I don't blame the actress. I think it's just the writing. She's just been really uninteresting, bitchy, backstabbing. To me, Tori's got the attitude. Like, Tori is one of my favorite characters. She always has been since the beginning. And I actually think probably out of the 5 episodes that we've had so far, Tori is by a long way the best thing in the season so far. I think Peyton List plays it very well. I think she's definitely matured into the character. A lot of times she just kind of had that like bitchy stank face, and she was never the best fighter, like choreography wise. She never has been. But her performance when her mom dies in this, I thought was brilliant. We get a nice little flashback as well to young Tori with her mom, which I thought was like a really nice thematic moment between the two of them. And it kind of explains why she needs this so bad, why she needs to fight. And that has been my favorite bit of the season so far. For the first 4 episodes, I really wasn't feeling it, but I do think it picked up a little bit in episode 5. And it was all to do with Tori's journey, basically. That fight where you know, she's like breaking down in tears and she's getting more and more riled up. And Amanda hears, I don't know how she hears the news of Tori's mom's death. Like, what did the hospital release that as public knowledge? Like, where I forgot where she learned about that. Is that explained? She's kind of on her phone, and then she's like, Tori's mom's died. We need to stop this fight. Like, how did she? I can't remember how she found that information. Did she receive a text from someone who would have told her? I'm not sure. Or was it an anonymous text or some? I missed that part completely. And you have Daniel LaRusso that's like, we need to stop this fight because she's unbalanced and she's in her emotions and she's in no fit state to fight. And Johnny Lawrence completely shuts him down and he's like, no, let her fight, you know. But anyway, the fight stopped. Tori would have totally have won, like hands down. She's like grabbing hold of Sam and she's like charging the punch up to like fucking punch her lights out or something. I'm like, Sam would have been done. Like, Tori had that fight in the bag. But they stop the fight and Tori gets really angry and storms away. Eventually, at the end, we learn that that's kind of the big cliffhanger of episode 5 is that she joins the evil team again. And we have another rift between Tori and Robbie and Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do and everything like that. But that was my favorite scene. And again, like as I said, like the pointless stuff that Johnny and Daniel fight about really pisses me off. And it's like, okay, let's just get past this. It's like, oh, you're not letting me train the kids. Oh, you're, you know, not giving me a job, or oh, you know, this and that. I don't agree with your teaching style. That shit bores me. And they do that every season. I'm like, let's get over it now. But an example of conflict done well is in a moment like that right at the end of the episode, where Johnny and Daniel have that massive disagreement about ending that fight and sending Tori away. And Johnny has that great moment where he says, she was working through it, goddammit. Like, you stopped the fight. She's up in her head. She's up in her emotions. Fighting her way through it was her way of, you know, catharsis. Like, she needed that. And you've denied her that chance. And now she's going to seek somewhere else to let that aggression out. And of course, we realize she's joined Kreese's team. That was a good altercation. And I like how they kind of brought that back to the original Karate Kid films. And we know Johnny had a very turbulent upbringing. And through Cobra Kai, this is why it's so great, completely recontextualizes the way that you see the original Karate Kid films even. And we know more about his past. We have more empathy towards him. And he says, look, I used to be in the same boat. I'd have all of this shit going on at home. And all I'd want to do is fight 3 rounds on the mat just to get that kind of side of out of me. So I really liked that. That was probably the standout for me in terms of drama and acting and character moment for me. Just going back to you guys' comments, Dario says, I got part 2 leaks of Sekai Taika. Oh, nice. Oh, no, sorry, I read that. I think you mentioned that there's pictures. Yeah. I only got pictures if you want. Can you upload pictures on YouTube Community? I was going to say, if you drop me a comment or something, or even just kind of explain what you can see in the images on my YouTube Community post, that'd be great. I actually don't know if you're subscribed already. This is where I shamelessly plug my channel. Please do subscribe for more reviews of not just Cobra Kai, but you know, a lot of other stuff too. Because that's the best place to reach me. I do have Twitter, but I don't use it all that much. So just drop me a comment in the community post, and I'll definitely read it, man. That's really appreciated. Tay says Tori left Miyagi-Do to join Cobra Kai because she was depressed from her mum passing, and she wanted to fight for her mum and bring out her anger. I will say that that's a good thing that I like about this season 2 so far, is that for Sekai Taikai, we know why all of the participants, all of the 6 members, we know why they're fighting, at least for the good guys. The villains are just the villains. They're just there to be angry and to be the villains for the series. That's kind of how it always goes. Apart from Tori, you know, we've got a lot on Tori. The rest of them, they're just aggressive and they're there to put up a fight. But I do like how we're kind of getting in the mindset of all of our main fighters, and we know what their personal stakes are in the fight and why it's important for them to win. I do like that. So Miguel wants to get into Stanford. I always forget what it's called. Prestigious college. And he feels like if he participates in this and if he wins this, that'll be a great thing to have on his resume and his application form, which will land him into a great college. So he's thinking about his future. Sam, for kind of selfish reasons, Sam's like, I want to prove that I'm the best and that I'm really good, because the fight that I had with Tori was kind of void because Silver paid off the ref, so it wasn't a legit fight, and she's just fighting for her and for her own self-worth, which is such a wonderful, upstanding reason to fight, isn't it? You've got Tori and Robbie kind of have the same goal until Tori's mom dies, and then that kind of intensifies a lot more. Before that point, Robbie and Tori, the reason that they want to fight is because they've been the underdogs. You know, that they're not going to be able to go to a prestigious college because, you know, they flunked out, or they were in juvie, or there was some kind of criminal, they were a bit of a tearaway, or they just haven't had the opportunities like a lot of other, you know, far luckier people. So she's like, this is our one shot to get anything out of life, is to win this competition. And that's cool. Like, I like that, and I can see that both of them would want that. And then obviously when Tori's mom dies, that's kind of now her main driving force. Probably still has the same reason that she wanted to before, in that she's like, this is my one chance to do anything with my life. I literally have nothing left now. This is my one chance to prove myself. But also the death of her mom and fighting for her mom is a big driving force. Dario says he's got to take off. No worries. I really appreciate you jumping on and keeping the conversation going. Maybe if you check back and watch the rest of this review, if you have any other thoughts on Cobra Kai, just drop a comment at the, you know, when you get a chance, and I will get to it and I will reply to you, man. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Let's just go back through some of the comments. Dario says Sean needed more screen time, not gonna lie. Yeah, he was just gone, like 2 episodes and he was gone. I agree. I think they could have really broadened out that dynamic over the course of the episodes. Dimitri is the most annoying character. I swear I get so mad. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Dimitri. I never have. And his really, really toxic girlfriend in it as well. She has that moment where she's like, he has a moment of crisis, of doubt, doesn't he? He says that, oh, I'm not going to win. I'm not going to do well. And she's like, ugh, if you're not going to have any confidence in yourself, then like, I'm just going to leave you. Like, and then he becomes a bit more tough then, just to get her back. And he's like, oh, well, no, I can totally win. I'm going to win this competition. I'm going to take home the trophy. And then she's like, oh my God, that's like so hot. I'm like, oh, can we get back to the legacy characters, please? Can we get back to Chosen and Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso? And then Johnny Lawrence is doing some dumb shit at the car dealership, and I'm like, oh no, go back to Miguel and Tori, please. So yeah, let's go to like the villain side of things then. So Kreese broke out of prison at the end of the last episode. Did he? I think he created some kind of riot, didn't he? Or he created some kind of distraction for him to get out. So Kreese escaped from prison, really, and he's gone into the sticks. I think he's like traveled to, it's Korea, isn't it? He's gone back to seek out Master Kim. And we get some flashbacks again with young Kreese. I love those flashbacks, by the way. I really like the actors they chose to play those younger versions of the characters, and it's so great that we get more Cobra Kai and Karate Kid lore when we keep going back and doing flashbacks like that. So that all that stuff's kind of cool. And initially, Master Kim doesn't accept him in. He's very, you know, what are you doing here? You need to prove yourself, John Kreese, before you can start training here or teaching here or issuing orders here. And he sends him to retrieve a mystical ancient family knife that has been lost to time in a cave. And I'm thinking, well, if you lost the knife in the cave, like, you know where it is. My guess there is that he's left it as a way to train people, right? He hasn't just intentionally left it there. Like, if you've left something and you know where it is, just go and fucking get it back. He's left it there as a way to teach people and to recruit people and for people to prove themselves. And it's a total Empire Strikes Back moment. Like, did anyone else watch this and think the same thing? I think it's hard not to. He's like, you need to go into this cave and retrieve this thing. You don't need to take any weapons. You only have what you take in with you. you're going to face your inner demons, and you're going to come out with some kind of like spiritual quest and sense of clarity. And it's the Luke Skywalker moment. It's Dagobah. It's the cave where Luke goes in. It's exactly the same thing. So Kreese sees the knife, and for some reason, it's so weird. This knife is being guarded by a cobra. I think it's not a cobra. Sorry, it's just being guarded by a snake. I think of some description. Someone's gonna know what kind of snake that was. And he gets bitten by the snake, and he starts tripping balls, and it's like a hallucinogenic stupor that he goes into. And it's his way of severing any kind of emotional ties or any sense of weakness that he has. And his weakness has always been Johnny Lawrence. And in this dark side Empire Strikes Back cave, he ends up fighting Johnny Lawrence, and he breaks his neck, thus severing his emotional connection to Johnny and proving that there is no obstacle that will stand in his way, essentially. And he cuts the head off the snake, and he brings the knife back to Master Kim with the severed head of the snake to prove it. And it's just, I don't know, like, it's just all, I was just watching it and just going, this is Empire Strikes Back. Like, this just seems really dumb. It feels like we've gone way, way off the fucking beaten track with all of this. Like, what are we actually doing? And the villains, I just don't care about them because they're not going to get much, character development at this point. We're 6 seasons in. I feel like if they'd have used a villain that we've had before, or set this up during like the last couple of seasons, we would have a villain that we care about, and it would be interesting, I think, going into that. But now we've just got sort of like evil karate character with no backstory as of yet. There's still time. There's still 10 episodes where they could flesh him out. I don't think they're going to do it. They've got a lot of other story stuff they need to tie up, and I don't see them going just randomly fleshing out this random new character that they've added. So yeah, as I mentioned, the villain side of things, I'm not really A-okay on. And there's kind of one other big thing I want to talk about with this series so far, which is probably one of the most damning things for me of season 6 so far. And I really hope it's not a sign of things to come, because the writers have done such a good job up to this point of avoiding this kind of modern stuff. And I'm really worried what they're going to do. Tay says season 6 is at 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know how that stacks up against previous series, and as I said, we've only had a third of a season so far. I'd probably rank it a bit lower than that. I would probably go to sort of like 60, mid-60s kind of thing. I'm not really digging this series so far. There's a lot of problems that I have with it. But my big problem is that we flesh out some of the lore regarding Mr. Miyagi. And I think this is in like episode 4 of the series so far. Daniel LaRusso finds in the training dojo, in the room where he always trains and has had for years, he finds a trap door underneath the rug in the middle of the room. How has he never seen this? Like, surely he would have refurbished this room. Surely he would have put the rug down on the floor. He just happens to find this trap door in the center of the training dojo that he's never seen before. That's ridiculous. Already I'm like, this is dumb. And within this trapdoor, he finds an ancient box, and there's all cobwebs, and it's the last of Mr. Miyagi's possessions. It's some of his possessions that he's never seen before. And they open the box, and what is contained within the box is information pertaining to Mr. Miyagi's former life, in that he was a co-owner of a boxing gym, and he had to flee the US, and he fled from the US to Japan. And he was like a real son of a bitch. He was a thief. He was, he committed assault. And they really vilify Mr. Miyagi. They say that, Mr. Miyagi wasn't the squeaky clean, nice, upstanding sensei that he was, father figure, grandfather figure, most wholesome guy you can ever wish to meet. He was actually a prick. He was a thief. He assaulted people. He was a nasty piece of shit. And he had to flee the US because he was such a piece of shit. And then I guess in the continuity of the rest of the series, then he would have joined the army. And, the rest is history kind of thing, everything we know about him. And I really fucking hate that. I'm like, this is this typical postmodern bullshit in that we can't have heroes anymore. We can't have people who we look up to, who are unwaveringly good. Any kind of characters that we've had before that are in any way inspiring or heroic, or fill us with joy, or fill us with hope, or make us want to be better people. Nah. We're going after Mr. Miyagi now. And for 5 seasons, what I've really appreciated is that even though, Mr. Miyagi is no longer with us, Pat Morita, wonderful actor, fantastic character, although obviously he's not around and can't be part of this series, they've still made Mr. Miyagi, for 5 seasons, they've still made Mr. Miyagi a part of the series somehow, whether it's from his teachings, from Daniel LaRusso, whether it's new information. One of my favorite scenes, and I think this was in season 3 or season 4, it's where Daniel goes to Okinawa and he meets up with Kumiko, and she has all of those letters that Mr. Miyagi wrote, and he's never seen them before. And she reads that letter, and I'm getting choked up even thinking about it now. But when I first watched that scene, I was gone, and I was like, that is such a wonderful scene. And the reverence that they held Mr. Miyagi in that moment, and you could tell that, what's his name? Sorry, Ralph Macchio is playing a character. Obviously, he's playing Daniel LaRusso, but it felt so real in that moment, because he wasn't just tapping into the character; he was probably tapping into his own personal memories of working with Pat. And it was a great moment. As I said, like throughout, whether they go to his grave, whether he's seeking teachings, they've always held him in such high regard. And now, like, it's the same writers, but now we're completely vilifying Mr. Miyagi through some like bullshit retcon that he had this really shady past and he was like a horrible guy. Fucking hate that shit. It's like The Last Jedi with Luke Skywalker. We have this character who's inspiring, who's unwaveringly good, who's loyal, who doesn't give up, who always tries to seek the good in people. And then you get to The Last Jedi and he's like a depressed hobo, given up on life, given up on his family, turned his back on the Force, guzzling green titty milk. It's just like, it's so mean-spirited, and everyone's doing this now. Batman, a character who's one of the most inspiring to me, my favorite character in fictional history. A lot of new adaptations now are going all postmodern, and that, oh, Batman's a fascist, he's a billionaire, he's got money, and he just beats up poor people, and like Batman's not shit. I'm like, fuck you. Like, can we stop doing this? Like, they're just taking away all of our heroes. Han Solo is a deadbeat dad now, gone back to being a smuggler, rose up to be a war general, and now he's just turned his back on his family and he's miserable. James Bond's gone. Fucking A. Like, and now we've gone after Mr. Miyagi? It's just, I don't know why the writers have done this. And some people might say, like, oh, it's just like a really small point. And I get why they've done it. It's just gone, oh, no one's squeaky clean. Even your heroes have a past, and even your heroes can have shortcomings and can be really bad, evil, nasty people and become nice. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't have to go after Mr. Miyagi, though, did you? In the final season, we just get this random bullshit retcon. I fucking hate that shit. Like, I hated that. And they even show at the end when the team captains are announced, and you have Robbie for the boys, and then you have Sam for the girls. And as Daniel's putting on the headband, he sees the logo and he realizes that this same headband is in Mr. Miyagi's crates as well. And that the headband that Mr. Miyagi has, revealing that he has fought in the Sekai Taikai, it's got all blood on there. Now, I read that holy shit, like the Sekai Taikai is this really, really super violent, like it's going to get nasty. And I don't even think Daniel was aware of how brutal it could be. That's how I read that scene. But I think some people are reading it that Miyagi himself had to get really like nasty and violent, and that's someone else's blood on Mr. Miyagi's headband. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, like why are we doing this? Like, so yeah, if I was going to do an edit, of this series, I would remove all of that like hidden crate of Mr. Miyagi. And yeah, it bombs off into like a really like random side quest that Daniel and Chosen go to some like old gym that Mr. Miyagi had a co-ownership with. And the person who's running the gym starts running and they start chasing him through the street. And he's like, "Oh, I thought you were the feds." And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, my grandfather or something, or my father, I can't remember what he said, was best friends with Mr. Miyagi, and he said he was like a really swell guy." I'm like, why are we doing this? This is such a random, and before you know it's over and it's done, and it's such a random side quest. I'm like, this is bullshit. Another moment I did really like, though, another character moment. So I've kind of bigged up Tori throughout all of this, and I do think that Tori's been the best so far. I think this is her season. But there was a moment with Chosen, and Chosen's kind of being played for laughs again, just like he was in season 5. But there's a moment where he's training because he's had a disagreement with Johnny, and he's going to fight him, and it's going to be like, you know, at sunrise on Monday, we fight kind of thing. And he's training really hard. And he kind of opens up a little bit to Daniel. He says that I feel like I failed. I didn't beat Silver in the previous series. You know, I got my ass kicked by him, so I feel like I failed myself. I was drunk. And when I was drunk, I messaged Kumiko and I kind of poured my heart out to her and, you know, declared my feelings for her. And she's ignored his messages. And he feels really bad about that, and he feels really broken up. That was a really well acted moment. I liked that. That was a good bit of character for Chosen right there. But honestly, that's kind of it. So let me just get to you guys' comments. I've got like 3 comments to read, and then I think I'm going to round this one off because we're coming up to an hour. That's a pretty neat place to end, I think, in terms of time. Kristen says, I'm hacking the Cobra Kai creators and I'm deleting Cobra Kai from everyone watching if Silver's not in part 2 and if episodes are shorter in part 2. I'm right there with you, man. I think we're going to get Silver. I'm confident we're going to get Silver. Don't you worry. We're definitely going to see him again. And I think the episodes are probably going to be consistent in runtime. That I think all the episodes so far have been like, what, 35, 36 minutes or something like that. And I feel like all the episodes in the past have been about that time. So I'd see them staying pretty consistent. I don't want them having like 20-minute episodes. That's not okay. Bath Time says, "Oh my God, Chris, nearly time for Lost 20th anniversary. And where's the Boys reviews?" I stopped watching The Boys after season 2. I really enjoyed series 1. I thought it was a really good critique, satire on superheroes and celebrity culture and the price of celebrity culture and the the corruption that lies behind it, and trying to take down corrupt governments and corrupt companies and things like that. And it was really interesting, and I thought it had some really interesting commentary to say on it. Season 2 was fucking terrible and just instantly killed my love for that series. Didn't watch series 3, and season 4, everything that I'm seeing from season 4 just seems really mean-spirited and just done for shock value. The intrigue of the writing seems to have gone. And yeah, so I won't be watching The Boys. I've got no interest in going back to that series at all. Nearly time for Lost 20th anniversary. Yeah, and I haven't watched a single one of them yet, so I really need to start rewatching that series. So I'm probably going to start that this weekend. Hopefully, if I can really power through it in 2 weeks, I can probably get through series 1. The first few seasons have got a lot of episodes. They're like 20 episodes each. What I really want to do is take notes on each episode and then hopefully film a video probably around August, September time of me just to camera, really, really quick edited video of me reviewing all of the episodes. Hopefully I can get that done. I'd really like to do that. Derpy Entertainment says, "All I can say is see you in November after it all being done. Yeah, well, we've got 2 parts. What a worthy cliffhanger for part 2. It was a good cliffhanger. I do wish they'd have just released the whole series, though. So yeah, it'll be November 15th when we get the next 5 episodes. They've announced the writers for all of them, I think. They haven't released directors, and they have released the title for the final episode, which is Ex Degenerate. So we will see. we will see where it goes, won't we? Bath Time says, this is regarding the boys. I just love Homelander. He's mental. He's mental, but they just don't really do anything with his character. You know, they're going to wait until they do the final season before he's taken out in the most gruesome, head-exploding way possible. But until then, he's Superman. Like, you can't do anything with him. He's the best character. He's the best acted character. Everyone knows that. They know that, and that's why they can't do anything with his character, really. Bath Time says, oh my god, Chris, Shape Up Lost is amazing. It is amazing. I love Lost. I've watched it a number of times, but I just want to rewatch it in preparation for the 20th. I don't want to kind of go off my memory from like 10 years ago. You know, I want to actually catch up with it and see how it holds up by today. So yeah, that's my review on Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 1, is that I'm kind of let down by this series so far. Now, obviously, I'm still a Cobra Kai fan. I'm going to be back in November. I'm going to be back in 2025 at some point, or whenever they release Part 3. I still love this show, and I still adore all the characters. I just think that the first 5 episodes have really dragged. I think the story has been stretched to its limits. I feel like there's a lot of side quests and side tangents that just feel pointless to the story so far, and it feels like we're wasting time. The standouts for the series so far are definitely Patent List as Tori. I really like her character and the journey that she's going on. And she's just kind of the standout at the moment, really. Everything else, I'm like, I feel like we're going through the motions a bit. We're kind of treading water. So I'm hoping Part 2 and Part 3 is just great character stuff. We know we're going to get tournaments. We know we're going to get a lot of fights, but I want more than that. I don't just want fights. I want great character stuff, especially from the legacy characters, because this is probably going to be the last time that we see all of these legacy characters together in this respect. And I want them to do it justice. I want a TV show that I can finally say I have devoted years to watching, and by the end of it, it's a really great ending. Because honestly, most of the TV shows that I've watched, and this is one of the reasons that I don't watch as many TV shows as movies, is that it's so much commitment, it's so much investment, and usually for an ending that's terrible. So, yeah. And my biggest negative so far out this season is that its treatment of Mr. Miyagi. This kind of retcon, your heroes aren't all squeaky clean. He was like an absolute prick, thief, violent man who changed. I'm like, can't people just be good? So I'm going to try and delete that from my headcanon. That ain't part of the law. They got a different Miyagi. They got a different guy. Yeah. I don't know why they did that. And it just it feels like no character is sacred anymore. No one can just be inherently good. There's always got to be like a moral ambiguity or shades of gray, or you know what I mean? And I'm just kind of over that. We need heroes. We live in a time where we need heroes, God damn it. Because when all the heroes are gone, what do we have? We've got fuck all. We've got no one to look up to, no one to aspire to be, or to be more like, you know. When people watch The Lord of the Rings and they see Samwise Gamgee and they say, this inspires me to be a better friend, or to have a friendship, to be as loyal and as hardworking and as selfless as Sam, you know, or to watch Superman and go, I might not be able to fly, I might not be able to have super strength or superpowers, but by God, I can look out for, you know, the little guy. Stuff like that. We need more characters like that, because we're entering an age of self-obsessed narcissists, morally grey. We don't really know who the good guys and the bad guys are, and it makes the world a very confusing and sad place, especially for the next generation. You know, my God, can you imagine watching films now where you have no hero to look up to, or a villain to hate or fear? I mean, that's a good question for everyone watching, actually. Are there any characters that you guys even still are inspired by? Like, even like some of the teachings of Mr. Miyagi in the first Karate Kid film, that film always gets me choked up. I love Mr. Miyagi, and even like bits in the sequels as well. Just his teachings, like the bit where he's such a nice guy, man, Mr. Miyagi in that first movie, where it's Daniel's birthday and he's you know, he's being a father figure to him because Daniel doesn't have a father in his life anymore, and he's kind of lost, and he's you know, he's in a new place, he's in a new school, and he's a teenager and raging hormones, and he doesn't know how to deal with it or direct it or what his place is in this world. And Mr. Miyagi takes him under his wing, and it's his birthday, and he makes him a cake, and he gives him his goddamn car, the yellow car, and that's my favorite moment in that film. And he teaches him how to drive it as well, and he says, you know, all life about balance, and it's important to remember that shit. I live for stuff like that. Love it. Rocky, Heart of Gold. What a heart. You know, I might not be a boxer, but I can still be inspired by these characters. Luke Skywalker, Batman, Kratos. Some of you might be thinking, like, Kratos, what? He's murderous and insane. Yes, he is in the Greek mythology ones, but like the newer incarnation of Kratos in the latest games. Just how he's so diligent, you know, just fight until the bitter end kind of thing. Love that. Love characters like that. And there's millions more. Anyway, I'm waffling on. You guys don't need to hear this, but I think it's important. So I hope before season 6 is done, I hope we get justice for Mr. Miyagi again, because we had justice for Mr. Miyagi and it was great. And now his name is tarnished and his reputation is tarnished, and I don't like that. But thank you to everyone who's tuned in. I thought I was going to be talking to just a red blinking light in front of me, but this has been great. We've had some new people sub. We've had some people keeping the conversation going about Cobra Kai. And this is where I pass over to you guys, whether you're watching right now or whether you discover this video at a later date. Do let me know your thoughts on Cobra Kai Season 6. Cobra Kai in general or Karate Kid, everything's welcome, but I want to hear your speculation for the rest of the season and what you think so far based on Part 1. If you have just discovered this video, thank you for clicking on it, by the way, or commenting or watching along. Please do subscribe to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. I'm going to have actually reviews on a lot of TV upcoming soon. So throughout August and into September, we're going to have The Rings of Power Season 2. Can't wait for that. September, we're going to have a Lost 20th anniversary special. I know a lot of my subscribers and people, you know, long-time commenters on the channel are all massive Lost fans, and any chance that we get, we're always talking about Lost, and that is going to be the stream for it. I can't wait to get into that, and I need to get watching that series. I need to mark my calendar for when the 20th anniversary actually is. Movies, you know, I'm sure there'll be some stuff coming out of the movie theaters every now and then, but I'll always be live streaming, talking about stuff. Recently, with me and Dale are doing a retrospective of all the Disney animated classics for our 100 Years of Wonder retrospective. Next week, we're going to have our review on Mulan, so that's going to be the next review on Monday. That's one of my favorites. So yeah, we've got that. Me and JX are going to be doing a whole bunch of Star Wars videos as well, continuing on every Wednesday. There's a lot of stuff coming to the channel, and I love doing this, and I love commenting with you, you know, chatting with you guys and commenting. It's great. It's always a pleasure. So I ain't going anywhere. Hope you all guys, you know, hope you all stay safe. Keep watching Cobra Kai, and I will, well, for Cobra Kai at least, I will see you in November. But for everything else, I'll see you every week. So thank you for tuning in. Have a very good evening, good weekend, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Take care.